Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture Taste of Poland. My name is Katarzyna Fus and I work in the Department of International Cooperation at Nicolaus Copernicus University in Toruń. For the lecture we have invited special guests, Professor Jarosław Dumanowski and Tomasz Welter, Master Chef. They are with us today. They will take us on an amazing journey through the secrets of Polish cuisine. I hope you will find it attractive and interesting. The event takes place under the project NCU4U, which is co-financed by European Social Fund and Operational Program Knowledge, Education, Development, Knowledge, and Polish National Agency for the Academic Exchange. The lecture consists of two parts, and during the lecture we will have 15 minutes break. So, let's start it.
Hello, I am Jarosław Dumanowski, historian. I work on the history of food and culinary traditions. Here at the Faculty of Historical Sciences we got so-called Center for Culinary Heritage. So it's a group of researchers working on the history of Polish and European food, culinary traditions. And very often we work together with chefs, food producers, in order to encourage them to develop some historical topics and to learn from them and to learn with them. Today we would like to introduce you to the Polish culinary culture, to the taste of Poland. The title of nowadays lecture or culinary demonstration is Taste of Poland. What does it mean, Taste of Poland? Whether Poland really has a separate, different taste, different cuisine, different culinary traditions. I think it's quite important to newcomer students, to students from different countries of Europe or from maybe also on other continents, to discover Poland, country of your new studies, also also as a place with his own culinary culture and own cuisine. So we would like to present you some very popular, distinctive or just tasty Polish dishes. But before we start, or rather our chefs start with the work of chefs, with cookery, I would like to pronounce a very short introduction concerning Polish cuisine and Polish taste. From one hand, Poland is, as European country, is a country where you may find literally everything popular in Europe and in the world. We live in the global world, and very often you may find exactly the same dishes, the same restaurants, the same bars, the same fast food especially, that you know from your own countries or from your different trips around Europe, around world. From another hand, there is obvious that some specific culinary traditions differ here, especially from the cuisine from Southern Europe, from this Mediterranean Italian cuisine, so popular everywhere. So first of all, Poland, however, we sometimes used to say that we are located in the East or Central Europe. In culinary terms, we are in Northern Europe. We have some specific culinary traditions common to Scandinavia, to Ukraine, Belarus, Baltic countries, but We also, as Poles, as just eaters, as chefs, as people who are interested in the cuisine, we love history and tradition. What does it mean, once again, Polish taste? I don't mean this popular global cuisine you may meet everywhere, but something specific. I think, first of all, Poles love different acid tastes. Poles love fermentation and fermented products, like fermented cucumber. If you don't know what it is, if you don't come from Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, you should absolutely discover it. Fermented cucumber, it's something very popular, served very often as side dish, but also as a product used in quite developed cuisine. So it's a reason that we would like to demonstrate to you, quite particular, however, in Poland, very, very popular, quite common. For Poles, it's so obvious that actually it seems absolutely unnecessary to tell you a story about this dish. I mean cucumber, fermented cucumber soup. It's something, it's really home cuisine, it's really something popular in different bars, but it's something you cannot find in Western Europe, in Southern Europe. It's really different. Excepting fermented cucumber, very popular is also fermented cabbage. That is an essential product used for different salads and especially for famous bigos. Polish bigos, it's a kind of sauerkraut, or if you know something about French cuisine, it's something like French choucroute, but it's completely different dish. It's a one pot dish, quite complicated or composed of many ingredients. Briefly, it's a kind of stew prepared on the basis of fermented acid cabbage and different kinds of meats, and especially sausages, sometimes dried fruits, wine. Almost every family has its own recipe, its own tradition. It's so popular that it's almost a symbol of Polish cuisine. During very long time, Poland, as a Christian and Catholic country, respected the custom of Catholic fast. So the custom consisting in the interdiction of eating meat and different meat products during specific days, especially Friday, during Lent, so 40 days before Easter. Nowadays it's not so popular, this religious impact, it's not so strong, but still, especially during so-called Christmas Eve, so a day before Christmas, it's very popular, it's very important for our culinary traditions. We prepare specific fast, I mean without meat, Christmas or Christmas Eve meal. Maybe you have heard on the Polish dumplings, pierogi. It's so popular that it's not really a single dish. It's a whole branch of cuisine, different preparations, differing with different kind of fillings. It's so popular in Poland that you may find even specific restaurants called pierogarnie, dumpling restaurant with only or mainly dumplings. We also, or rather our chefs, will prepare some different dumplings. It's quite simple, and you may invent yourself your own filling with some dry meat, vegetable, vegan dumplings, or with something sweet that may be served also as a dessert. We will use some Polish freshwater fish, very popular in Poland. We are, as a country, as a producer, famous for different freshwater fish. We would like to talk to you about duck, about goose, and obviously we will use some forest wild fungi that they are so popular, especially now because we have high season, and if you would like exactly now to go to the forest, you would meet maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of people collecting mushrooms and then preparing different kinds of Polish dishes with them. But it's a little difficult. You must absolutely know what kind of mushroom is edible, what kind of mushroom is poisonous. So I think that it would be much more interesting for you if we develop some topics concerning mushrooms, fermented products, some wild products, fishes, with help of our chefs, and we will come back with our comments during different preparations and some examples, because our task, our goal is not only to talk to you about cuisine, but also to introduce you as chefs how to prepare something typical Polish, how to choose really true Polish dishes, and how to use also these culinary possibilities to spend nice time in Poland. Thank you.
Witam Was wszystkich. Nazywam się Tomasz Welter. Działam w gastronomii od wielu lat.
Hello everyone. My name is Tomasz Welter. I am chef. I have been working in gastronomy for many years.
Chciałbym Wam dzisiaj pokazać kilka prostych, ale typowych dla Polski dań.
I would like to demonstrate some very simple but really typical for Polish cuisine dishes, preparations.
Chcemy dzisiaj pokazać Państwu i przystawki, zupy, dania główne, no i oczywiście pierogi.
So it would be a kind of the whole meal, because we would like to start with some starters, with a soup, with some main dishes, and obviously Polish dumplings.
Zaczniemy od przystawki. Będzie to śledź w oleju. Bardzo znana w Polsce przystawka. Często bywa na wigilijnych stołach.
We'll start with herring in oil. It's a very popular starter. Very simple. The product is really easily available, and it's one of these typical Christmas Eve dishes. I just introduced to you the notion of Christmas Eve in Poland as maybe the most famous, the most celebrated traditional meal in Polish food culture.
Jakich produktów potrzebuję do przygotowania tej potrawy? Oczywiście śledź. Potrzebujemy też cebulę. Będzie tutaj kiszony ogórek oraz wykorzystamy toruńskiego piernika, żeby pokazać Państwu, że możemy wykorzystywać piernika również w gastronomii, również przygotowując dania wytrawne.
So first thing, what do we need to prepare this herring in oil? Obviously we start with herring. It's a salted, marinated herring. Then onions. So we got actually in the, so 2 onions, of course oil, and then it would be a really local specific preparation from Toruń. So we use something very regional, something you cannot find in this dish in the most of Polish regions. So Toruń Katarzynki gingerbread cakes. Toruń is famous in whole Poland and Europe from the production of traditional gingerbread, so sweet, spicy cake. And this time, this St. Catherine cake, St. Catherine gingerbread, will be served as a kind of spice. But warning, many nowadays gingerbread are covered with chocolate, so we should absolutely not to use cake with chocolate to prepare herring. Just simple, the cheapest, ordinary gingerbread, dry, without any additives.
Na początku pokroiłem cebulę półksiężyce, tak to się nazywa. Następnie biorę ocet, to akurat jest ocet z czarnego bzu, skrapiam tą cebulę octem i teraz będę parzył ją na zimno, to znaczy się wyduszam soki z tej cebuli. Chodzi o to, żeby ona była mięciutka, żeby nie była twarda.
So, the beginning is simple. You have to chop onion in the small, however not the smallest parts, and then you add a vinegar. Our chef used very specific vinegar from our region. Vinegar made on the basis of elderflower. It's a white tree with very strong, very pleasant smell. But the goal is to marinate the vinegar, so you have really to mix a little the onion with vinegar. Then he added some pickled cucumber, so this fermented acid cucumber that is so popular, not only as a separated product but also as a kind of spice, additive, as an ingredient of many different dishes.
Do tej naszej już przygotowanej cebuli dodałem kiszonego ogórka, którego pokroiłem w bardzo drobniutkie paseczki. I to będzie nasza podstawa jakby pod naszego śledzia w oleju. Przemarynowana octem cebula, do tego kiszony ogórek i do tego jeszcze dodam oleju, po prostu oleju.
So once again, it's a mixture of chopped onion, chopped pickle or pickled cucumber or gherkin if you like. Then at the end something very important, something that it's in the title of the dish, so oil. We usually use a colza oil, the most popular, but you may find in different shops very different kind of oil. So I don't mean an olive oil that it's also available in Poland, but we got like in Scandinavia, like in northern country, many very different local oils produced on the basis of local products with very interesting smell and taste. So it would be a kind of sauce.
Teraz biorę śledzia, którego kroję w troszeczkę grubsze paseczki.
So the herring is chopped in middle size parts.
Tego śledzia odrobinkę doprawię pieprzem, czarnym pieprzem.
Lightly spiced with the black pepper. However, I can see that it's really quite richly spiced.
Nie będę tego solił, wiadomo, że śledź bywa słony, dlatego nie będę tego już specjalnie solił.
And one important remark, there is absolutely unnecessary to salt it because herring is already salted as marinated, so it's salted herring, so you don't use the salt because it would be really inedible.
I na dobrą sprawę wszystko już mamy gotowe. Kwestia teraz złożenia tego na talerzu, żebyśmy mogli w jakiś fajny, elegancki sposób podawać oczywiście tego śledzia.
Actually, everything is already prepared, so you can see that it's really simple. The beginning is simple, starter is very quite easy to prepare. You don't need complicated tools, very well equipped kitchen. You have just to put everything together. So this marinated onion and cucumber with oil as the basis, and then the herring on the top.
Do dekoracji wykorzystam sobie jeszcze marynowanego w occie oczywiście maślaka, leśnego grzyba.
Then, as we already said something that white mushrooms are so popular, and especially that now in autumn it's high season and it's a very good year for wild mushrooms in Poland, especially in the Toruń region. We use marinated, this one it's not the fresh one, but marinated wild mushroom. They are marinated in vinegar. So once again you can see that literally everything is a bit more or less acid, because so it's a taste, traditional taste in the northern country with sometimes ago, many years ago, very long, very severe winters. Polish farmers use different techniques of fermentation. They are marinated many vinegars, many vegetables. So nowadays we absolutely don't need to use this kind of conservation, this marination, this fermentation, but we really love this taste. So it's very popular, literally in every kind of dish.
Wykorzystam tutaj toruńską katarzynkę, piernika, jako grzankę, bo oczywiście takiego śledzia w oleju powinno się jadać z różnego rodzaju pieczywem. My tutaj proponujemy właśnie w wersji toruńskiej, z toruńskim piernikiem.
So it's a Toruń version. Toruń version, it means with the most famous Toruń product, Toruń gingerbread, this katarzynka, because the dish should be served with a kind of bread. Gingerbread is here. Gingerbread is a kind of bread. Ginger bread. Actually, it's a cake, but it may be served as a kind of toast. So if you may put it just for a few seconds in the oven, or just to heat it a bit, and everything is prepared.
Także życzę Państwu smacznego. Mam nadzieję, że Wam się uda przygotować tego typu potrawę u siebie w domu.
So we hope that you are now able to prepare these quite simple dishes yourselves, and it would be a good introduction for the next step, next part of discovery of Polish cuisine.
Teraz wstęp do zupy ogórkowej.
So it was
Dobra.
It was a starter.
Zwijaj to, co jest niepotrzebne, te śledzie i te...
Really simple, really popular, available products. You may easily find marinated, salted herring everywhere in Poland. The same with marinated cucumber. Of course, in Toruń there is no problem to find gingerbread. In the historical center you may find maybe 50 shops. 50 shops only with gingerbread, so it's really easy, every kind of gingerbread. But we use it the most simple, the really cheapest, the most typical, the oldest, without chocolate, without any sweet cover. Then mushrooms, here marinated mushrooms, in order that this acid marinated taste will be well composed. So really the simplest way to start to learn Polish cuisine. Next part, it's a bit, but just a bit harder. It's a soup, a Polish fermented cucumber soup. So popular, so obvious for Polish cooks, chefs, that our chef was really a bit surprised that I proposed Polish cucumber soup. So we have hesitated a bit between fermented cucumber gherkin soup, pickled cucumber soup, and barszcz, Polish barszcz, so the soup prepared on the basis of red beets. It's also very popular, but we opted together for this gherkin soup. So every kind of Polish soup preparation starts with preparation of fresh vegetables. Chcesz coś powiedzieć?
Tak, podstawą mojej zupy jest wywar, który ugotowałem na bazie drobiu. Do tego wywaru dodam drobno pokrojone warzywa typu seler, por, marchewka, pietruszka, dodam też cebulę.
So the basis for the soup, as it's very typical in Poland, is the meat broth. In this case, it's a chicken broth, so prepared a bit earlier. Then Tomasz adds some very typical for Polish soups vegetables such as carrot, celeriac, parsley, but parsley roots. It's something interesting because so for Polish people, for Poles, it's obvious that we prepare soups if it's really necessary. It's obligatory for Polish chefs, for people who cook in their own homes. Parsley roots. Parsley root, it's really something difficult to find everywhere in Europe because it's replaced by another kind of root vegetables. In Poland, it gives you very specific taste, a bit more flavor. Then one leek, and every vegetable is chopped in quite small pieces. Why? Because in this case, you short a little the time of preparing a broth. It would be faster, and then it would be quite nice look of the prepared dish, and then we can eat also the vegetables.
Te wszystkie warzywa staram się kroić jak najdrobniej, żeby się po prostu nam wygodnie jadło. Dodam do tego jeszcze ziemniaka i na końcu drobno pokrojonego ogórka kiszonego. Tego ogórka muszę dać dopiero wtedy, jak wszystkie warzywa będą miękkie. Dlatego, że kwasy z ogórków kiszonych spowodują, że te warzywa po prostu nam nie zmiękną. Dlatego ogórek dodajemy zawsze na samym końcu.
Tomasz just explained why vegetables are chopped in so small pieces. It's simply in order that the act of eating itself would be more comfortable. You may eat everything in quite comfortable way without spending 1 hour just eating this cucumber soup. There is maybe the most important thing, the most important remark here, especially for those who are not very familiar with using pickled vegetables in the cuisine, that pickled cucumber is added as the last one, just in the end of preparation, because acid things, giving acid taste and acid substance to the soup, don't let you to boil the vegetable in proper way. If you add the gherkin just now, all vegetables would be very hard and it would be really unpleasant kind of unpleasant touch, kind of unpleasant sensation during eating. So it's very important. You may still see that cucumber are waiting for its turn. And then something so popular in nowadays Polish cuisine, added to almost every kind of soup and the most of Polish main dishes, so potato.
Bywa, że w kuchniach całego świata troszeczkę inaczej się robi. Zupy gotuje, bo bywa, że w kuchni włoskiej, na przykład zupę minestrone, gotujemy, przesmażamy najpierw wszystkie składniki, warzywa, też drobno pokrojone, kapustę i te inne składniki, a następnie zalewamy gotowym wywarem. My w Polsce zupę gotujemy troszeczkę inaczej, to znaczy, że gotujemy te warzywa od samego początku w wywarze z mięsem, czy to będzie z drobiem, czy będzie na wołowinie, czy na wieprzowinie, to już zależy jaka zupa, ale staramy się właśnie gotować, żeby jakby z warzyw i z mięsa, na którym gotujemy zupy, jak najwięcej wyciągnąć smaku, że tak powiem mocy smaku.
It's an essential technique, very typical way of preparation, Polish soup. Actually, you may use this lesson for literally every kind of Polish soup, just changing the main ingredient like the pickled cucumber. In different cuisines, soups are prepared very often in a different way. For example, this Italian custom to prepare minestrone is when you start with frying vegetables and other ingredients, and then you boil it after ingredients are already fried. Here in Poland, you boil it quite slowly, quite long time in the broth, in the meat broth, more or less delicate, rather chicken or sometimes veal or maybe beef. And it's quite important because we believe, and we know it, that like this, the big portion of taste is proliferate this whole liquid, and you obtain quite rich and very tasty soup. Soups are very important in Polish cuisine. They are very often a kind of very rich, sometimes really main dish. Many of Polish soups are not simple a starter. They are sometimes really a main dish, and you may eat very well just eating one Polish soup.
Dobrze, następnie, jeżeli już te warzywa mam mięciutkie, a jeżeli je drobno pokroiłem, to na pewno są, dodaję teraz tego ogórka, o którym mówiłem. Może być drobno pokrojony ogórek kiszony lub starty na tarce, ale oczywiście na grubych oczkach, żeby go było widać też w zupie. Także ja teraz wrzucam tego ogórka. Tylko zamieszam. Pogotuję dosłownie kilka minut, żeby puścił smak, ale w tym momencie kwasy, które są w ogórku kiszonym, spowodują, że faktycznie te warzywa nie będą mi się dalej gotowały, a wywar nabierze mi fajnego, kwaskowego smaku.
So it's high time to add pickled cucumber, the most important ingredient that decides on the specific flavor, taste, and even look of the soup. You have to be sure that your vegetables are already soft, already prepared, and they absolutely should be if you chopped it in very small pieces. So you can see that it's really, you don't lose really very long time. But remember, you have to prepare a chicken broth before. So cucumber is also chopped in very small pieces. You may just grate it or just chop it with a knife.
Jeżeli chodzi o przyprawy, dodam odrobinę soli.
And if spices are concerned, at the very end we add a small quantity of salt and
Czarnego pieprzu,
black pepper and
odrobinę ziela,
and allspice. So in Polish it's called the English spice, so sometimes it's maybe difficult to find it in the...
Liść laurowy.
And then the leaf, just and then a lavage.
Zupa właściwie jest gotowa. Kwestia teraz dodania śmietanki. Używam śmietanki dość mocnej, dość tłustej. Chodzi o to, żeby ta zupa była naprawdę kremowa.
Actually, the soup is already prepared. You may eat it like this, or you may use, like it is custom in Poland very often, you may use a cream. So the chef uses a... Ile procent?
No, ponad 30%.
So quite, so 30% cream, so sweet, fat cream. Like this you obtain a very creamy substance, a pleasant look of the dish. But if you would prefer some really light, more dietary preparation, you may also avoid the cream. However, classical version is always with cream. Like this you obtain really very nutritious dish.
I na dobrą sprawę po 15 minutach gotowania zupę mam już gotową. Naprawdę polskie zupy, no wiadomo, że wywary się gotują dość długo, ale jeżeli mamy ten wywar ugotowany, podstawowy, mocny wywar, to dokończenie tego typu zup, tak jak zupa z kiszonych ogórków, tak zwana ogórkowa, czy zupa z kiszonej kapusty, tak zwany kapuśniak. Naprawdę są to zupy proste, ale smaczne, polskie ponad wszystko.
So you could observe that whole preparation, or almost whole preparation, took just 15 minutes, just a quarter of time. So it's very fast, it's very simple, but I think you have to prepare chicken broth, or you may buy it, or you may use something already ready. But I think that our chef would not rather be very happy if we use already if we use chicken broth bought in the shop. But it's important that like this you may be introduced to very different preparation. For example, it's almost the same way you prepare the soup of fermented cabbage. A soup of acid cabbage, you add just in the end the chopped fermented acid cabbage and you got completely another different dish.
Także nasze drugie danie jakby, już zauważcie Państwo, że już zrobiliśmy i przystawkę w bardzo krótkim czasie, zupę, jedną z najbardziej polskich zup. I za chwileczkę chcemy Państwu powiedzieć coś więcej o tych pierogach, o których Pan Profesor tak dużo opowiadał, ale myślę, że na temat pierogów możemy opowiadać godzinami.
So the soup, the second dish of our demonstration is ready. You could see once again that it's quite simple and quite fast, maybe the most surprising. I think that it's so fast because the professional chef is really extremely skilly, and maybe if you prepare it first time it would take a bit more than 15 minutes, but we may try to learn from him, and after a few months spent in Poland you may become really master of Polish cuisine, and you may really demonstrate something interesting, some new dishes, some new skills, some new knowledge in your countries. If you come back, if you visit your own countries during the year, and if you prepare something like this, I think it would be really very well welcomed by your families and friends. So the next step, the next part are dumplings. Dumplings, this whole branch of Polish cuisine, you may discover it in different restaurants, almost every Polish restaurant proposes you a dumpling, some typical, some classical, or some really surprising kinds of dumplings. Maybe it's the first Polish word you should to learn, pierogi. If you go to a restaurant, you have, however, very often, or it's a rule nowadays, you may obtain an English menu, sometimes German, sometimes Russian, but the word pierogi is really worth it to memorize, to learn. Or pierogarnia, something maybe the most surprising, a restaurant serving pierogi, dumplings, that you may find in almost every Polish restaurant and bar.
Chcemy Państwu pokazać, że w Polsce jest naprawdę mnóstwo nadzień do pierogów, farszy tak zwanych. My dzisiaj będziemy chcieli pokazać chociaż 3, takie w miarę podstawowe, chociaż naprawdę wyobraźnia kucharzy nie jest na granic i farsze do pierogów robi się naprawdę z bardzo dużo różnego rodzaju produktów. My chcemy dzisiaj Państwu pokazać pierogi. Wiem, że to może dziwnie brzmi w polskiej kuchni, ale pierogi ruskie. Pewnie profesor będzie wiedział więcej, jeżeli chodzi o historyczne pochodzenie, dlaczego ruskie w Polsce. Będziemy chcieli również, pierogi ruskie, które składają się z twarogu, to znaczy się białego sera, składają się z ziemniaków ugotowanych, te ziemniaczki będą sprasowane, do tego będzie wkruszony twaróg, do tego przesmażymy sobie cebulkę na maśle. Resztę powie profesor.
We start our lesson concerning dumplings with the most typical, most common, most popular version. Actually, dumplings, I think you know some different similar dishes from the whole world, like Japanese gyoza, like Chinese dumplings, like Italian ravioli. It's not the same. Maybe if you visited Russia, Belarus, Baltic countries, Lithuania, Ukraine, of course, you are already familiar with this kind of preparation. It's just a kind of noodle filled with what? With literally everything. It's really your imaginary, it's really your idea what you can put inside. So you have to prepare a dough and they fill it with something. And just fillings decide on the type of dish. The most typical is, what is maybe the most surprising, so it's difficult to translate because it's a very old Polish term. In Polish it's pierogi. You already know that pierogi means dumplings. So pierogi ruskie. We could translate it like Russian dumplings, Russian pierogi, but actually it has nothing to do with Russia. It's a very old word referring rather to Western Ukraine or Eastern Poland, historically a part of Poland. It's Ruthenian, but in order to make a difference, you have to be very well oriented in Polish and Ukrainian and Eastern European history. Anyway, it's the most popular version, this kind of pierogi ruskie, Ruthenian or ruskie dumplings, if I really have to translate in quite proper way. We use as a filling something very typical Polish or something very typical from Central and Eastern Europe, white cheese, so-called quark. It's fresh, white cheese, very popular. You may find it at every grocery, in every shop, in every supermarket, of course. Very often use it as a main ingredient of breakfast. But here there are two main ingredients. Quark, so white fresh cheese, melted with boiled potatoes. And onion, I believe, richly spiced. So it's maybe the most important thing to discover the world of Polish dumplings.
Dodaję do tej cebuli, do tego pierogów ruskich, dodaję podsmażony na maśle twaróg.
So chef started to fry chopped onion in the butter. But warning, if you use, ale masło jakie? Klarowane czy zwykłe?
Zwykłe masło, no nie musi być klarowane.
If you fry something in the butter, in the ordinary butter, you should to do it very slowly and do not exaggerate with high temperature. So he fried a bit onion and added the quark, the white cheese directly into fried onion. Then we have to mash the potatoes. You may use a specific tool. It's like to prepare gnocchi in Italian cuisine, so the tool is quite popular. But you may use just a fork or what you have in your cuisine. Like this, it's very professional, it's very quick and very precise work.
Właściwie ten farsz jest gotowy.
Actually, the filling is already prepared. Once again, very simple. According to our chef.
Wystarczy tylko wymieszać i dodajemy tutaj dość dużo czarnego pieprzu.
So you have to mix it very, very cautiously, and you add a really big portion of black pepper. So black pepper with quite delicate, really delicate taste, flavor of white cheese and potato. It's really decisive for your success. The fried onion gives you a bit sweet impression of sweetness, so you have to equilibrate it with big portion of black pepper. It should be really added in much more bigger portion than in other preparation.
Właściwie farsz już jest gotowy.
So filling is once again prepared.
Tutaj z boku Marcin już przygotowuje dla nas ciasto do pierogów. Ciasto jest bardzo ważne, ale też z drugiej strony bardzo proste. Jeżeli chodzi o ciasto, najbardziej tradycyjne polskie ciasto do pierogów składa się z mąki pszennej, wody gorącej i jajka, odrobinę soli.
In this time, when Tomasz is working on the filling, Marcin is prepared the dough. The dough is very important, the delicate dough for Polish dumplings. Ingredients are really simple, so the flour, the wheat flour, white wheat flour, then hot water, then an egg and a bit of salt. But you must mix it quite cautiously, quite long time, in order that the dough will be really smooth, really soft, really delicate. And remember, you have to shape dumplings, so it should be really plastic, it should be easy to form new shape.
W międzyczasie, jak to ciasto nam musi odrobinę przestygnąć, bo jest oczywiście z gorącą wodą, pierwszy z farszy już zrobiłem przed chwilą na te pierogi ruskie. Teraz dla Państwa pokażę Państwu kolejny farsz tradycyjny polski, który używamy do pierogów. Jest troszeczkę tutaj jakby w dwóch opcjach, bo najbardziej znane w Polsce pierogi z kapustą i grzybami, to znaczy się kapusta kiszona i grzyby leśne. My tutaj zrobiliśmy taką troszeczkę inną wersję tych pierogów ze względu na profesora, bo uwielbia pierogi z leśnymi grzybami, ale z kapustą włoską. Kapustą, która była ugotowana przed chwileczką, tylko delikatnie zblanszowana. To nie jest surowa kapusta. I też zrobimy w wersji, że przesmażę najpierw cebulę, dodam grzyby, podsmażę to wszystko, dodam kapusty i mam farsz.
Ale nie włoską, włoską? Nie.
To jest biała kapusta słodka.
Nie włoska.
Tak.
So as the dough has really to wait because we have used hot water, so it's very important for every kind of dough that it should rest a bit, as chefs say, it should rest a bit before really shape dumplings. So Tomasz is preparing another popular filling. However, it's a bit changed. So very popular ingredient of many typical Polish dishes is cabbage. Cabbage that is really very good in Poland. You may find different kinds of cabbage, and very often, as I already mentioned, we use fermented acid cabbage, a kind of sauerkraut. So maybe the second most popular filling, second most popular kind of dumplings are dumplings with acid fermented sauerkraut and wild forest dumplings. So once again, two typical ingredients meet together, but this time we have used a sweet cabbage. I don't mean cabbage sweetened with sugar or another sweetness, just a fresh cabbage. Why? Because actually the best dishes are our familial dishes, as something prepared by mom, by grandmom. So I have decided to propose something prepared by my mom, who used always just fresh cabbage. It's a custom from Eastern Poland or Western Ukraine. For example, nowadays you may find many Ukrainian restaurants and bars in Poland. If you ask their Ukrainian chef, Ukrainian owner of restaurant on the dumplings with fermented cabbage, he would be really horrified because it's strange, because it's untypical, as I was during my childhood tasting this fermented cabbage. Anywhere you may choose between fermented cabbage or sweet cabbage. You may introduce something new. Co z tą kapustą zrobiłeś? Posoliłeś, tak?
Posoliłem, tylko
zgotowana,
zblanszowałem.
tak?
Tak, zblanszowana.
So, as really the preparation of filling is concerned, the chopped cabbage was just boiled in very short time. Salt. Then it is added to fried mushrooms, wild forest Polish mushrooms. Why mushrooms are so important? Actually, we don't know, because it's Polish, it's popular. We love the taste of fresh and then of dried mushrooms. Dried mushrooms are a kind of spice, a kind of additive deciding on the taste of many different dishes. It's not just a separated dish or main ingredient of dish. It's something used very often for very different preparations. So there are melted fried dumplings are melted with this a bit boiled and a bit marinated white fresh cabbage.
Gdzie masz drugi rondel? I farsz jest gotowy. Dodałem
The
odrobinę,
filling is ready once again.
dodałem odrobinę jałowca.
So he adds a bit of very specific Polish spice, juniper berries. Just
Odrobinę
juniper in Polish, jałowiec.
rozmaryn.
A bit of
Chodzi
romarin.
tu o to, żeby dostało takiego leśnego
Rosemary.
posmaku. Gdzie masz drugi rondel?
Jakiego?
Leśnego posmaku.
So combining together, it would add you a bit more flavor of the forest, because juniper is really wild tree, and juniper, dried juniper berries in the Polish tradition are very often linked with different wild meats, game meats.
I co teraz najważniejsze, jeżeli chodzi o pierogi, bo farsze mamy gotowe, tak? Zrobiliśmy sobie farsze z kapustą i grzybami leśnymi. Zrobiliśmy farsz, który jest z białego sera i ziemniaków, przesmażanej na maśle cebuli, bo to jest bardzo ważna rzecz. Żeby w tym farszu na pierogi ruskie ta cebula była przesmażona na maśle. Dużo pieprzu czarnego. To wtedy jest naprawdę ten fantastyczny smak. Proponuję Państwu, żeby proporcja sera do tych ugotowanych ziemniaków była 2:1. Tego sera musi być więcej.
So once again, we obtained two kinds of fillings. So this fresh, sweet cabbage with wild forest mushrooms. And the first filling is this Russian or ruskie pierogi mixture of boiled potatoes and quark, white fresh cheese. Very important that the quite big portion of onion should be quite long time, that really slowly in delicate way fried in the butter, and that we absolutely should not omit a big portion of black pepper.
Istotą rzeczy, jeżeli chodzi o ciasto na pierogi, jest to, żeby było elastyczne, żeby było mięciutkie.
So the dough for dumplings should be very soft, very delicate, in order you could form this kind of noodles. It's maybe the most difficult thing, so you really need to work on it.
Ja przypomnę jeszcze raz składniki tego ciasta na pierogi. Także to jest mąka pszenna, wrząca woda.
Poczekaj, once again, we would like to remind you the ingredients of the dough prepared for dumplings. Jeszcze raz?
Mąka pszenna.
So the most basic thing is the wheat flour, white, delicate wheat flour.
Gorąca woda.
Hot water.
Gorąca woda nadaje nam sprężystości, ale też miękkości. Żeby
So
to ciasto
it gives
mięciutkie.
an impression of it's soft
I jedno jajko wystarczy na taką porcję.
matter. And just one egg. Ale ile tej mniej więcej mąki, bo to...
Znaczy się jest mniej więcej, no to jest, to trzeba wyczuć.
no ale trzeba powiedzieć,
Nigdy
to
proporcja jest tego
najtrudniejsze.
typu, że załóżmy na 400 gram mąki dajemy jedno jajko i dajemy około 100-150 ml wody gorącej.
Professional chefs are really not very happy if they have to give you a regular, precise proportions. Why? Because he said, you have to feel it. You have to discover it. You may touch the dough and you know how much of water you need. But the classical thing is you use 400 grams of flour. You use just one egg, and you use some 150 grams or milliliters of water. So a half or a bit more of cup of hot water. But actually, if you start to produce really dumplings, if you really feel how difficult it is sometimes to shape the dumplings form, you will understand what he would like to reveal to us. That it should be a plastic substance, easy to be shaped. And one warning, at the beginning you should use quite small quantities of filling. It's simply easier to form nice dumpling. So, a możesz zrobić najpierw taki klasyczny, zwykły pierożek, taki półksiężyc i pokaż go. So the classical form of dumpling, of Polish dumpling, is this half moon shape. Można pokazać do kamery? So this one half moon shape. But our professional chef Marcin started to propose you more complicated form. Możesz pokazać uszko teraz? Uszko już gotowe. It's called ear because it reminds you a shape of human ear. So it's very often used for this most celebrated Christmas Eve meal. But you have really to be a bit more skilly to prepare ears. Just start with the classical, simple, half moon shape pierogi dumplings.
Te nasze pierogi wystarczy wrzucić do wrzącej wody, pogotować około 5 minut, 5-7 minut i będą idealne do jedzenia. Jeżeli chodzi o dodatki do pierogów, to znaczy się jakby pełną aranżację dodatków, to podajemy je na różne sposoby. Najczęściej jest to podsmażona cebulka na maśle, bywa też, że jest to bekon z dużą ilością tłuszczu i też jest jakby polane są te pierogi. W tej chwili kucharze wymyślają różne otoczenia tych pierogów. Podajemy na demi-glacie, podajemy na konfiturze z czerwonej cebuli. Ja chcę w tej chwili Państwu pokazać, że wystarczy fajne powidła śliwkowe, do tego dodałem odrobinę chrzanu i w tym momencie mam już jakby podstawę pod te pierogi, żeby to pierogi nie były, nie robiły mi się nudne, a były fajne, agresywne smakowo. Dlatego dałem taki podkład, to znaczy się powidła i chrzan.
So the ending is, according to our chef, very simple. You have to put dumplings in the boiling water, already boiling hot water, and they need to be boiled during some 5-7 minutes time. Ale po wypłynięciu czy w ogóle?
Nie, od zagotowania. Znaczy się ogólnie
So if the water is
5 do 7
already
minut.
boiling, it's 5-7
Wszystko zależy od
minutes.
grubości ciasta.
So it depends on the dough you made. If it is delicate, thin, you need a little less time. And then it's served with different sauces or additives, like, for example, cream, fried onion, just fat, just melted butter, or sometimes fried bacon. Or nowadays, cooks, chefs, or family cooks invent many different dish sides, adding, for example, plum jam, something very typical in Poland, and especially in our region, because the Vistula River is surrounded with the old orchards with old kinds of plums, and it is really famous regional product. We've separated festivals and feasts devoted only to the plum. However, it's not classical proposition, it's really invention of our chef. Now it's decorated, very important,
Smacznego.
and good appetite.
Mam nadzieję, że te dania, które do tej pory chcieliśmy Państwu pokazać, są bardzo proste, bo tu chodzi o to, żeby kuchnia nie sprawiała nam też problemów, żebyśmy nie spędzali też godzinami czasu w kuchni, bo szkoda na to, naszego czasu. Dlatego nasze propozycje są bardzo proste. Wydawałoby się, że pierogi są skomplikowane. Zobaczcie, tutaj udowodniliśmy, że w kilkanaście minut można zrobić, oczywiście dla 2-4 osób, te pierogi szybko i wcale dużego bałaganu nie narobiliśmy.
So dumplings are ready, and once again our chef emphasized that it's simple, it's very fast, and what is very important in the cuisine, in the work of the chef, both in a restaurant and at your own home, there is not big disorder here, and you need really, according to him, they are professionals, but if you work a bit, you may really prepare your own dumplings, your own pierogi in quite short time, and it's really very tasty, very original, and very typical for Polish cuisine.
Co? Koniec.
I przerwa teraz.
Myślę, że na tą chwilę zakończymy. Wrócimy po 15 minutach i pokażemy Państwu dalszy ciąg naszych warsztatów kulinarnych.
And now it's time for a break. Let's meet again in 15 minutes. Stay with us.
Welcome once again after a short rest for our chefs and for us. I hope you may use this lesson given by famous chef Tomasz Welter, the member of prestigious Polish Cooks Association, the club of Polish chefs, just nominated. So we continue with our lecture, demonstration and proposal of Polish typical, traditional and extraordinary meal. We have just described very fast, simple starter, the herring in oil. We have just, at least we personally, tasted the cucumber soup, the Polish acid cucumber soup made on the basis of pickled cucumbers. Then we have discovered the mysterious world of Polish dumplings. Please remember that there is no limits as invention of fillings of Polish dumplings is concerned. Especially that is worthy to remember that you may add something sweet. That this kind of dumplings goes very well with different fruit, jam, or just sweetness, and they are very often served as a dessert or just during the season with several fresh or even during the winter frozen fruit. So the second part of our meal will consist of najpierw ryba, tak? Of the trout. So it's an example of Polish freshwater fish. If you have an access to the sea, if you may easily find different kinds of fish in our shops, something typical Polish are locally produced freshwater fish like trout, like carp, especially popular or being a main ingredient of this famous Polish Christmas Eve meal, Christmas Eve supper, or Polish pike. It's a very big, very tasty Polish zander, or Polish perch, or different kinds of fresh water fish. Then the second dish in this part would be a duck. Actually, we thought on the goose. Goose is very important in Poland, in our region especially. And in whole Poland, we celebrate the 11th of November, the St. Martin Day, and nowadays, Day of Independence. Day of Independence of Poland, announced 11th of November, 1918. So 2 years ago, we have celebrated the 100th anniversary. And this celebration is marked with many different kinds of goose dishes, and starting from the beginning of November in many restaurants, especially here in Toruń and in this whole region, you may find special menu proposed with the dishes of goose. We propose you duck anyway because the season for goose starts in about 1 month. And it's really much more better to find fresh meat. And we will end with something already introduced with Toruń gingerbread. Gingerbread is so typical for Toruń, for the city. If someone in Poland remembers Toruń, and many people knows very well, what Toruń means, because it's very famous not only because of university but also because of monuments inscribed in the heritage UNESCO list. So gingerbread is big tourist attraction, and you may find in Toruń not only dozens of specific separated shops with gingerbread, but also 2 big museums of gingerbread history, of gingerbread production, and you may not only visit the museum, as it's really normal, customary, but you may also prepare your own gingerbread in the museum. It's really worth it to discover the history, the city, the identity of the city, and the cuisine of the region by visiting gingerbread museum. But we will start with trout, with fish. So, Tomasz.
Jak widać, mamy świeżutkiego pstrąga. Ja go najpierw oczyściłem, oczywiście z łusek, żeby był czyściutki. Oczywiście w środku też ładnie wyczyszczone, skrzela i tak dalej, także jest ładny, fajny kawałeczek czystej ryby. Co ja z tym dalej robię? Będę kroił tą rybę po prostu w kawałeczki takie, żeby można było po prostu wygodnie sobie zjeść. Tak zwane dzwonka. Te elementy odkładam. Rybę sobie będę doprawiał w bardzo, bardzo prosty sposób. Tylko solą. Delikatnie solą. I pieprzem. Na rozgrzaną patelnię wlałem olej. Olej był odrobinę przemarynowany z czosnkiem i dodałem masło. Po prostu masło, dlatego żeby zrobić już tutaj taki fajny, podstawowy smak tłuszczu. Bo jak wiemy, to tłuszcz jest najlepszym przewodnikiem smaku i to tłuszcz daje nam tą fajną, specyficzną smak tego wszystkiego, który za chwileczkę tutaj będziemy Państwu pokazywać.
Poczekaj, bo ja nie zdążę. Czyli posolone, popieprzone, tak, z cytryną?
Tak. Nie, cytryna będzie później.
I masło
z olejem.
Z olejem i
z czosnkiem.
I z pietruszką.
I z pietruszką, tak.
So the basis for the preparation is fresh trout. Trout divided into quite thick slices, just in order to obtain comfortable portions to eat. A bit salted, a bit with black pepper added at the beginning, and then just fried. In the... Czyli który to był ten olej?
Tak. Z odrobiną
It's fried on the mixture of the oil, of the local oil, so it's not olive oil because there is no local, regional, Polish olive oil, just most popular is colza oil. So it's prepared, it's fried on the mixture of the oil and butter with a bit of parsley, this one green parsley leaves, and co
Na
teraz?
tej samej patelni podsmażam sobie pasternaka, żółtą marchew i tradycyjną marchew pokrojoną w naturalny sposób.
And then he adds some vegetables. It's pastinek. Pastinek, it's a kind of something that it's that reminds us Poles parsley root. However, it's much more popular in different countries than in Poland. In Poland, it's rather difficult to find, but I think you may use also parsley root. And he adds some carrots, some different kinds of carrots, not only typical red carrot, but also the yellow one. Then horseradish. Horseradish is very popular Polish spice, so it's ground root of horseradish. It's very spicy, it's very hot, so you should be really, if you don't like, if you are not very well trained in hot spices, just be cautious in using Polish horseradish, used very often as a kind of mustard of popular sauce.
Dodałem chrzanu, dodałem w tym momencie śmietany i teraz duszę tą rybę w takiej aromacie chrzanu.
So horseradish that gives so much spicy taste and really hot flavor is diluted with cream. Once again, quite fat, sweet, 30% cream. So you obtain a very nice sauce. Then a dill, a green dill that gives much more aroma and flavor will be really fascinating, I believe.
Właściwie dodałem na koniec świeżego koperku.
The fresh green dill at the end added.
I na dobrą sprawę ta ryba już jest gotowa.
And actually, the fish is already ready.
Zależy mi na tym, żeby zbyt długo tego nie gotować. Nie możemy tego dusić nie wiadomo jak długo. To chodzi o to, żeby tylko teraz ta rybka delikatnie przeparowała w aromatach tego kopru, tego pasternaka, tej marchewki i tych wszystkich przypraw, które były wokół tego.
It's very important that the fish should be not braised too long time. It needs just a time that different flavors, different ingredients combined together.
Zauważcie
But
Państwo,
it should be really fresh, and the time of braising, of boiling in quite low temperature, in delicate weight, is really short. Czyli jak długo?
tak jak tu widać, to jest około 5 minut.
So it was just about 5 minutes after frying the fish. It's quite important.
Bardzo ważne jest, żeby śmietana miała ponad 30%, to w tym momencie zrobi nam się wspaniały sos.
And the very important thing is that you need really fat cream with at least 30% of fat matters.
Wystarczy
Because
teraz
like this you obtain really very smoothy, delicate and nice sauce, and in the fat all kind of flavoring is really emphasized, and all these ingredients goes
I danie
very
gotowe.
well with them.
Myślę, że to jest danie, które dla osób, które myślą, że w rybach jest dużo problemu. Chodzi o to, że ryby naprawdę są bardzo proste do wykonania. Bardzo króciutko smażymy czy dusimy, tak jak w tym wypadku. Nie musimy tego torturować i katować, że tak powiem. To musi być w bardzo delikatny sposób zrobione. Dlatego zobaczcie Państwo, jaki jest piękny sos do tego jeszcze.
A te warzywa były podgotowane najpierw?
Były podduszone tylko w tych.
Wcześniej.
Tak, tak.
So once again, very important is that fish needs to be prepared in quite delicate way. You need to fry it quite short time. Jak długo smażyłeś?
Około 3 minut.
Z jednej strony czy z drugiej?
Z jednej strony łącznie około 3-4 minut.
It was just 3 or 4 minutes time frying the fish. That 5 minutes of braising, so boiling in quite delicate way, in a bit lower temperature, because the meat of the fish is quite delicate. So it, as he emphasized, it doesn't need to be massacred by us. And many people really are afraid of preparing fish, especially freshwater fish. Actually, it's very simple. It's really good introduction to more complicated preparations. Like, for example, a duck. So we start the next dish.
Pierś z kaczki.
It's a breast of a duck, already seasoned and marinated, I think, tak?
Ona była najpierw zamarynowana, sól, pieprz i majeranek.
Just marinated before in quite simple way, so salt, black pepper and marjoram.
I już tłumaczę, jak ona była wcześniej przygotowana, bo to też jest bardzo ważna rzecz. Tą kaczkę najpierw, tak jak tutaj profesor wspominał, była doprawiona solą, pieprzem i majerankiem. Następnie była robiona już w tej chwili taką nowszą metodą kulinarną, także była zapakowana próżniowo i była gotowana w niskich temperaturach. W temperaturze około 60 stopni, ale tylko 40 minut.
So it was marinated in quite traditional way with some spices, not very. So the list of spices is really short. Once again, salt, black pepper, and marjoram. But then he used quite modern way to preparing meat. So it was prepared, it was boiled in so-called sous vide technique. So under pressure, tool. So it was boiled during quite long time, but at very low temperature. Ale jak to teraz ludziom wytłumaczyć, jak mogą oni zrobić?
Można to...
Actually it's difficult to, if you don't have professional tools, it's not possible to prepare it at home, czyli jak w domu, bez...
W domu można zamarynować i po prostu gotować w temperaturze, żeby się parzyło, żeby to nie była temperatura
Czyli jak długo?
parzenia,
Jak
tak,
długo?
70-80 stopni.
Jak długo?
Już około godziny.
Godziny?
No.
Welcome once again after a short break, this time a bit unexpected. And the hero of the break was a duck, fried duck. We have interrupted just in the moment when the breast of duck was marinated, a bit boiled. You may boil it or pre-boil in quite low temperature. So just 60, maybe 70 degrees during 70 stopni, ile? Godzinę?
No gdzieś około godziny, w domowych
During
warunkach.
1 hour, but remember, not really in boiling water. 70 degrees is the
Marcin.
maximum.
Daj mi dwie katarzynki.
And then it should be fried, czyli opowiedz o smażeniu.
Bardzo istotne, żeby kaczkę położyć na bardzo mocno rozgrzaną patelnię, ale skórą do patelni, bez żadnego tłuszczu. Dlatego, że kaczka pod skórą ma najwięcej tłuszczu i to zależy nam na tym, żeby ten tłuszcz wytopić z tej kaczki i w tym momencie ona już nam się smaży na własnym tłuszczu, we własnym tłuszczu. Przez to, że wytopimy ten tłuszcz spod tej skórki, skórka stworzy nam się chrupiąca, a kaczka będzie mięciutka, nie będzie nam się kojarzyło z gumą do rzucia. Kaczuszka już jest gotowa. Profesor może opowie o tej technice.
So when you fry a duck, a breast of duck, remember it's the most delicate, most valued part of the duck, the breast. You should put it on the pan when the fat is already very hot. So it's the first thing. It should be very high temperature. And you should put it with the skin on the fat. Like this, you obtain very interesting, very pleasant texture. It should be quite crunchy on the top and really delicate inside, because otherwise it may be too dry or it will remember you kind of chewing gum and it would be not very successful. I can see that he added a pear, then plums are prepared, so it's very often, it's a rule in good cuisine, you use seasonal products. Why? Because first of all, they are cheaper, and the second of all, they are much more better. If you use some, I don't know, maybe strawberries, nowadays it should be not so extraordinary, but every kind of autumn fresh regional fruit is really fascinating. It's fresh, it's cheap. It means that you may afford much more better product for relatively low price. Czyli co teraz to było?
Do tej kaczki
Gruszka.
przygotowuję sobie sos. Na tym samym tłuszczu od kaczki dodałem piernika.
So it's a kind of sauce. Once again, he uses products easily available, popular here in Toruń and in our region. So using the fat left after the duck was fried. So once again, nothing is lost here. Every product is used sometimes several times. So he used a fat after frying duck. Added some gingerbread, so I think grape gingerbread. Then honey. We got very good regional honeys in Poland. Different kinds of honey prepared from different kinds of flowers, plants. He added the pear and
Śliwki. Odrobinę śliwki.
and some plums.
I sosik właściwie mam już gotowy.
A płyn
Dodałem
co
śmietany
dodałeś?
płynowej.
And once again the cream, this fat 30% cream. Jakieś przyprawy dałeś?
Dodałem przyprawy piernikowej, piernika, miód i śmietana. Śliwka ma dać taki
And
delikatny.
he added the gingerbread spice. So in Toruń or in Poland, you can, among different spices, you may find just gingerbread spice. It's a set of spices, the bunch of different spices. So the true spices used to prepare to spice gingerbread, like pepper, ginger, cinnamon, and so on.
Dodałem śmietany 30% śmietanki
masło
i dodałem
nie.
na koniec zimnego masła, żeby ładnie mi się to zeszkliło, żeby ten sosik był fajny, kremowy.
And another mystery, another secret of our chef. At the very end, he added the cold butter, just in order to obtain really very smoothy texture of the sauce.
Co jest bardzo ważne, zrobiłem do tego jeszcze jako dodatek czerwoną kapustę.
And very important, as a side dish, red cabbage is proposed. Cabbage, as I emphasized several times, is so popular in Poland that you may even imagine whole complete meal where cabbage is the main ingredient in very different dishes. This town, the red cabbage, very popular as a dish site. Ale to jest przygotowana specjalna, tak?
Kapustę przygotowałem w ten sposób, że kapustę ugotowałem sobie osobno. W drugim garnku roztopiłem masło, dodałem miodu, skarmelizowałem ten miód, zrobiłem taki miodowy karmel.
So the cabbage was prepared a bit before, just boiled in separated pot with some honey added.
Następnie
Honey was caramelized, so fried in quite hot temperature. We call it caramelized, so a bit in delicate way, a bit so prepared in very hot temperature.
do tego teraz do tego karmelu miodowego dodałem wiśni.
And then to this caramelized honey, he added some cherries.
Skarmelizowałem te wiśnie, dodałem tej ugotowanej kapusty i wszystko wymieszałem.
And then added this already boiled or pre-boiled red cabbage. All ingredients mixed it.
Jak widać, sosik mamy już gotowy, ten nasz
Put
sosik.
Here, and the duck breast put in the top of this quite complicated construction, covered with this smoothy sauce.
I nasza kaczka już jest gotowa, naprawdę bardzo proste danie, bardzo smaczne.
And duck already prepared. And the whole dish once again called by the chef as called very simple, very tasty,
Smacznego.
Good appetite once again.
I już jakby na deser naszej dzisiejszej opowieści o polskiej kuchni chcemy pokazać Wam piernika, toruńskiego piernika. Może cała opowieść gdzieś tam w tle jest podszyta piernikiem, ale myślę, że to jest to fajne, to jest to, co polskie.
Musimy zwolnić, bo mam jeszcze godzinę. Mów, tylko dużo mów.
Zobaczcie Państwo, piernik.
So, the last part of our meal is gingerbread. Gingerbread, you may, actually in Toruń there are dozens of hundreds different types of gingerbread. It's here in our city, famous in the whole country and whole Europe. From gingerbread, you may find very different products called gingerbread. And it's here gingerbread prepared by the chef himself, czyli jak przygotowałeś piernik?
Znaczy składniki, które tutaj użyliśmy, to było faktycznie przyprawy piernikowe, bo to jest najważniejsze. Te wszystkie bardzo aromatyczne i słodkie i pikantne przyprawy.
Może poczekaj. Just an idea. So I'm from Toruń. We live here for many years and we know perfectly what gingerbread means. So before Tomasz explains how he prepares his own gingerbread, maybe a short explanation. Gingerbread is a very old traditional product, a kind of cake prepared on the flour. During the history it was very often the black, brown or just rye flour mixed with the honey and a set of different oriental spices like pepper, nutmeg, ginger, cinnamon, sometimes with some orange or citron lemon peels or another ingredients added. Nowadays it's prepared rather on the basis of the white wheat flour with honey and sugar and once again the spices. So it's a mixture of something local, something produced locally like wheat, like flour, like honey. Sugar nowadays is also locally produced, but during hundreds of years it was cane sugar, so imported from Mediterranean countries and then from America. Nowadays it's rather, so of course, the regional product. And it was so popular, so common, that it was never just a cake. It was a kind of preservation of food, because like this, if you use big quantity of honey and big quantity of oriental spices, it may be dried or baked once again and preserved sometimes for years. Very often the dough for the gingerbread was preserved for years. Sometimes it was a kind of treasure, a kind of very valued substance you may store during the years. Of course, here it's a fresh product, it's a bit more lighter, but it was so common, so popular, that it was really a kind of bread, a kind of really almost staple food, so everyday food or something eaten not just as a cake, but some everyday staple food. And very often, as it was dried, it was a kind of spice, and it was very popular because like this you obtained a prepared mixture of different spices. Imagine that spices imported from Far East were extremely expensive. It was at the beginning in Middle Ages, it was very expensive, very luxurious product because of spices. So it was very difficult to store spices without losing their freshness, their flavor, their smell. So very often they were melted like this, gingerbread being dried or baked once again, Actually, the word biscuit, it comes from baking something once again, second time, in order to obtain very hard product, easy to store during months or even years. But this time it's really nice, fresh, delicate, soft dough. So after this maybe too long introduction, but really gingerbread, it's whole history of the city, of the region, with two big museums and many smaller workshops, places when you may bake, when you may learn how to prepare gingerbread. With dozens of shops, it's really worthy to study gingerbread history as a historian, as a tourist, or as a consumer. Czyli jeszcze raz o tym pierniku, jeśli można. So, once again, gingerbread prepared by Tomasz.
Znaczy się, tak jak powiedziałem, najważniejsze są te przyprawy w pierniku, ale ważne jest gatunkowo produkty, które chcemy używać, żeby to było naprawdę smaczne. Także naprawdę naturalny miód, te przyprawy, jakby, żeby były jak najbardziej świeże, to jest jakby podstawa, ale są tam też i bakalie, są tam orzechy, są rodzynki, żurawina.
Dobra. So once again, in the gingerbread, the most important thing, according to our chef, are spices. They should be really quite fresh, so with strong smell. You should not use spices stored in already opened jar or bag. Then all ingredients should be, it's obvious, but here it's especially important, of good quality. So really natural honey. Really true honey, because you may find an artificial one, or you may find, if you buy honey, you have to be very cautious about the choice. You have to read carefully all very small letters, whether it is really original Polish honey or a mixture melted substances coming from all over the world. Then honey goes very well with this plum jam. It's very popular. It's very popular connection in Polish cuisine. But this actually it's quite rich because he used raisins, co jeszcze użyłeś? Nuts.
To jest właściwie wszystko, miód i to są no, mąka pszenna, wiadomo,
Of course,
że to musi
tak.
być do tego.
I teraz sos, tak?
Teraz przygotowuję do tego taki specjalny sos. Wiadomo, że piernika naszego przekładaliśmy smażonymi śliwkami, powidłami. To też jest polskie, tradycyjne jakby przetwór, gdzie używamy dziś tego dużo, nawet w kuchniach śniadaniowych, ale ogólnie polski przysmak powidła, smażone powidła ze śliwek. Ja przy okazji chcę tutaj pokazać taką wersję jakby delikatnie uproszczoną powideł. Wrzuciłem po prostu świeże śliwki, dodałem odrobinę gruszki. Używamy zawsze tych produktów, które są w tym momencie sezonowe, tak? Nie używamy produktów, tak jak tutaj widzicie Państwo, no cytrus to jest jedynie gdzieś tam do ryby, to jak najbardziej, ale ogólnie staramy się używać produktów, które są w tym momencie, na to jest czas. To jest czas na jedzenie śliwek, gruszek, jabłek. Ja tutaj do tego dodałem jeszcze oczywiście, do tego mojego sosu, miodu. Dodałem troszeczkę przyprawy piernikowej takiej, żeby to też nam się gdzieś tam kojarzyło z Wigilią, ze świętami Bożego Narodzenia, gdzie w Polsce jest bardzo, bardzo fajnie obchodzone i jest to naprawdę wyjątkowe święto dla Polaków. No i ja tutaj do tego przygotowuję takie troszeczkę bardziej nowoczesne powidła, że tak powiem, bo dodałem też odrobinę gałązki rozmarynu, żeby pokazać jakby smaki lasu, pokazać smaki tego, co nas tutaj gdzieś otacza. Dodałem pikantną wiśnię, którą sobie wcześniej zamarynowałem na sposób taki bardziej ostrzejszy. Okay. Także mam już gotowy piękny sosik, do którego tutaj, którego użyję do naszej do naszego piernika. Także wyeksponuję sobie tutaj dwa piękne kawałki piernika. Dodam gruszkę, która była pięknie zrumieniona i dodana do naszego karmelu z wiśniami, ze śliwkami.
Wiśnie jeszcze. Czyli co było? Miód?
Miód, wiśnie,
Śliwki.
śliwki, rozmaryn i pikantna wiśnia, żeby to było pikantne.
Czyli przyprawa piernikowa?
Przyprawa piernikowa też, ale wiśnia też była sama w sobie pikantna.
So you may eat, you may taste gingerbread just like this. Just gingerbread prepared by yourself if you are able to do it, and I hope you will learn after watching the film, after visiting gingerbread museums, after tasting torn gingerbread from different torn shops. But if you feel already courageous and you would like to try to prepare gingerbread yourself, remember that it goes very well with plum jam, and as it's a season for plums, and Tomasz just emphasized this very simple but extremely important rule. We often forget about it, that we should absolutely use local products during the highest season. So now it's really pears and plum, and it gives much more taste. It's really much more ecological. You don't need to import something from another continent. You don't need to pollute our world with this transportation, and we obtain something much more cheaper and much more better. So he proposed us to prepare gingerbread in really like a dessert, like something proposed in a restaurant as quite sophisticated dish. And it's sophisticated because of the sauce. Sauce is prepared once again on the basis of ingredients you are already familiar with, like honey. Honey, a bit fried, gives you a bit caramelized, so always sweet, but a lightly bitter, lightly smoked taste and flavor. He added plums and pears, then cherries, interesting rosemary, fresh rosemary. So it's also very important in order to obtain a really interesting thing, you should use the fresh herbs rather than some dried spices, some dried herbs, especially when you fry something, because if you use dried herbs, they may burn a little, they may caramelize in quite unexpected way, and you may obtain some unpleasant sensation of eating something burnt. So he added rosemary i co? I przyprawę piernikową?
Przyprawa piernikowa.
And this gingerbread spices. Gingerbread spices, it doesn't mean gingerbread itself. However, it was also used, as I remarked many times already, as a kind of spice. But this prepared mixture of nutmeg, pepper, cloves, what else? Cinnamon and ginger. And it's really easy to find in Polish shops. Gingerbread spices or przyprawa piernikowa. Anyway, it would be really good moment to memorize the word pierniki, because if you start to search gingerbread in Toruń, you risk to find nothing. Polish word is pierniki. So if you remember this short Polish lesson, at the beginning it was pierogi, very specific but very useful word in Poland, and then pierniki, extremely useful word in Toruń. So, sauce already prepared and served with gingerbread. Actually, this sauce is a kind of fresh, a bit unclassical, extraordinary plum jam with this contrasting smell and flavor of rosemary and sweetness and gingerbread spices. Coś jeszcze? Możesz mówić, bo...
No, chciałbym tylko powiedzieć
Tak.
tyle, że to był tylko ułamek w dniu dzisiejszym kuchni polskiej. Mam nadzieję, że przyda Wam się ta drobna lekcja, w jaki sposób w Polsce podchodzimy do gotowania, w jaki sposób gotujemy nasze tradycyjne, jak najbardziej codzienne dania. Bo to są dania, które gotuje się na co dzień w domach. Nie do końca, no w restauracjach oczywiście też można jadać te dania w piękny, przeróżny sposób podane, ale te dania, które chcieliśmy dzisiaj pokazać Państwu, jada się na co dzień w Polsce. Także nie zdziwcie się, że jest tyle pierogów, że są ryby, że jest drób, kaczka, piernik i nie tylko piernik, bo mnóstwo różnych ciast w Polsce się jada. Także zachęcamy do gotowania, zachęcamy do eksperymentowania z polską kuchnią. Okay. Okay.
So it was just an introduction, a short introduction to the world of Polish cuisine. The choice of the dishes was not so obvious, was sometimes difficult. We really had a very harsh discussion. He a bit criticized my choice of dumplings with sweet cabbage, because the classical version is the fermented cabbage, but it's the richness of the Polish cuisine. If you leave Toruń and go to the excursion, especially to eastern Poland, you may find, for example, with dumplings filled with black wheat, something strange for us. If you are here in Toruń during the autumn and winter, and especially in November, I would like to remind you 11th of November. So first of all, it's a holiday. There is no lectures, there is no work hours, because Independence Day, celebrated in Poland with different dishes prepared on the basis of goose. For example, famous, but just for this region or just for the northern Poland, black soup, a soup prepared on the basis of the blood of goose or a duck. Something really found here by many people as maybe the most delicious, extraordinary, festive meal. And something really difficult even to imagine for Poles living in the south or southeast of the country. So it seems very barbarian to them if we prepare something like this. But you may, I think, follow the internet site of university and the site of the event. We will add at least the list of ingredients in English. It may be useful for you because maybe it would be a pleasure to watch a chef, and maybe it would be extremely simple to chef, but to repeat his work, it may sometimes be be more complicated for us. I am aware of it, so we give you a detailed list of ingredients with the quantity of different products. Then, if you are interested, I may recommend you an internet site, culture.pl. It's a portal prepared by Ministry of Foreign Affairs concerning Polish culture, Polish history, and in general way Poland in English. And you may find many interesting articles in English on Polish cuisine, Polish traditions, recipes, just put in the internet, in the Google or another place. Culture.pl, cuisine, Polish cuisine, culture.pl, but we would like, with service of international affairs at university, to provide to you more information and maybe more films, and especially an opportunity to taste personally, to really taste something traditional, something Polish, prepared for some celebrations. We prepare in about a month so-called Toruń Festival of Taste. It would be the 17th of October in the Trade Center of Park. It's not far from university, and it would be devoted to the 100th anniversary of unification of our region, of Toruń and our region with Poland. And we would present you the history of Polish dishes and Polish cuisine 100 years ago, just to commemorate this important anniversary. Then the 11th of November will be a good opportunity to visit Toruń restaurants and taste different goose dishes. And a big meeting, a big local market is organized 11th of November, just close to university, just close to, so it's outside Toruń, but just 2 kilometers from the border of the city. And every first Saturday, you may visit the market close to Ethnographic Museum, and every 2 Sundays, slow market of Toruń, slow market like slow food, is organized in the place of New Market in Toruń. There are many possibilities. I think we provide you further information, and we hope you will spend nice time here, not only studying, not only working, but discover a country from different sides. And the cuisine, the food, is maybe not the less important, because like this you may discover not only how to prepare what we have prepared today. I say we, however, they, Tomasz and Marcin, they prepared as a starter herring in the oil with cucumber, onion and black pepper, with quite interesting elderflower vinegar. Then it was pickled cucumber soup. No worry with pickled cucumbers. You may find in every market. They are sold in barrels, they are sold in supermarkets, they are sold everywhere. Then we got, trzecie danie to były pierogi. Different dumplings, so the most classical so-called Russian dumplings or Ruthenian, or just pierogi ruskie. Learn Polish, especially as culinary terms, it's really necessary, it's really useful, and you may convince yourself that the life would be really simpler here if you learn at the beginning some culinary terms, just in order to order something in a restaurant. So different dumplings. This Russian, it means, if you remember, because I forget, what does it mean, Russian dumplings? Russian dumplings, so filled with quark, white fresh cheese, and boiled potatoes, a big portion of fried in the butter, fried onion fried in the butter, with very big portion, it's very important here, black pepper. We put much more black pepper than for another kind of dish. It was also dumplings with cabbage and white forest mushrooms, so important, so often use it in our cuisine. Then braised trout, then braised breast duck, However, we prepare you rather for goose meat and different goose preparation, but it will start rather in November because of the season. And at the end, famous Toruń gingerbread in quite fantastic innovative sauce composed of honey, seasonal fruit, rosemary. It was quite courageous option, and this gingerbread spices. I think it would be just an introduction, and we will maybe meet together once again. I wish you pleasant stay in Toruń, and personally from me and from our chefs, a pleasure from discovering taste of Poland. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, chefs, our today guest. This is the end of our event, but I hope this is the beginning of the journey for you to taste the Poland, to taste how our traditional cuisine is still present in our lives. So thank you once again for attending the event, and goodbye. See you next time.